Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, September 16th. The Fed kicks off its two-day FOMC meeting today, with markets bracing for tomorrow's policy update. On Monday, to start the week, all three major indices pushed higher. The Dow gained 49 points, or 0.11%. The S&P 500 climbed 30 points, or about 0.5%, and the Nasdaq led the way, jumping 207 points, nearly 1%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.1%. We're positive. We're positive in the pre-market. We were up almost 0.2%, but now we're up 0.1%. That's okay. The focus is on tomorrow's Fed announcement. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces here. The markets, number one, are pricing in a 25 basis point cut. That's like expected. We can almost be assured that is going to be what's coming up. But this is September. This is the September meeting, and the September meeting comes with the updated to the summary of economic projections, or the dot plot. The last time the dot plot came out was in June. Now it's September. This is the new dot plot. And in June, they said, well, we expect 2 rate cuts between now and the end of the year. Well, it's going to change, and it could be much more aggressive than, one basis point cut, because if they cut 1 basis point, that would mean there's one more cut between now and the end of the year. I could see that being more aggressive because you've got Bauman, you got Waller, and you got Moran, who are all going to be pushing for lower interest rates. They're all pushing for the Fed to become Fed chairman. So he who is most aggressive may get that job. So I would not be surprised if you're going to wind up seeing, dramatically more lower interest rates from their projections. But we'll have to wait and see. But you got to watch those dot plot expectations when they come out tomorrow. Last night, Stephen Moran, he was approved as a Federal Reserve governor, replacing that Adriana Krugler, who she resigned last month for, still some unknown reasons. And separately, a federal appeals court rejected an emergency request by the Trump administration to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook from her position. So she's going to be voting, and so is Stephen Moran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he announced a framework for a deal over the ownership of Chinese social media platform TikTok. This is setting up a call on Friday between Trump and President Xi of China. Interesting. Could be something there. In terms of economic data today, I'm going to be watching the retail sales. The retail sales data is due up before the bell. That could be something. On the earnings front, Play, which is Dave & Buster's, they delivered a big miss on lower revenue. Tomorrow, we got earnings coming out from General Mills and Cracker Barrel. That could be something. But, let's take a look at the overseas action. Let's take a look at what's going on in Germany. The DAX is down 146 points, or 0.61%. This comes despite some positive economic sentiment. The ZEW economic sentiment data, out of Germany was actually, came in better than expectations. So interesting. The FTSE is down 24 points, or 0.27%. Consumer staples and healthcare stocks, they're kind of weighing on that index. The CAC is down 12 points, or 0.15%. Luxury stocks are higher, industrial stocks are lower. Okay, that makes sense. Then we're turning our attention over to Asia. We're seeing what happens in the Asian markets, and you get the Nikkei finishing higher by 0.3%, or 134 points, with positive action in the semiconductor stocks. And then you look at the Hang Seng. The Hang Seng was flat. It was down 0.03%. You saw a little outperformance in tech and consumer stocks, which helped to offset the weakness in property and financial stocks there. In Shanghai, the Chinese market was up 0.04%. Tech stocks moved a little higher. Sentiment was supported by, the positive signals that came out of the U.S.-China trade talks. That's all good. And then we're taking a look at oil action, and we're seeing oil is actually, turning higher. Oil was lower all morning long, but now you're seeing WTI at $63.63 a barrel. That's up about 0.5%, but Brent is trading 67.65, and that's up about 0.3%. The key is the inventory data. We got the inventory data starting to come out this afternoon and tomorrow morning. You got the API data coming out after the bell. 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then you have the EIA data coming out at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. Those are going to be interesting to see if we'll continue to do a build in stockpiles, which is what we saw last week. But keep an eye on oil. Oil is trading a little higher than probably needs to be, but we'll have to wait and see if that trend continues, Emily.
And Bill, I often point out on days like today, of course, we're watching this major headline with the FOMC meeting starting today. We're looking for that policy update tomorrow. And as you pointed out, not just that, but the dot plot. What are we looking ahead to? Now, while we're keeping our finger on the pulse of all that's going on with the Fed, we want to make sure to keep diving into the other details that could be moving markets. And that's what you do using your Newsware. You're not only keeping track of the major headlines, but you're really gathering all the details and data and information you need for the trading day ahead. One of those areas is earnings action, as you pointed out, Cracker Barrel being one of them. They've had some interesting movement and drama as of late, so that's an interesting one to be watching. So let's dive into earnings action. Bill, what is going on there?
There's not a whole lot of earnings that hit the tape last night, but we did have Dave & Buster's, ticker PLAY, Paul, Larry, Apple, Yellow. I mean, the fact of the matter is they missed by 52 cents, and they did it on lower revenue. Stocks getting smoked this morning. It's down 18.35%. Upcoming, we got a number of upcoming ones. I mean, tomorrow morning, for example, you got General Mills. General Mills is interesting. I mean, they're expected to make 81 cents. Expected move is 4.75%. You look at a 0.56 put to call ratio, 8,200 calls versus 4,600 puts. A little cautious here because the stock is trading like 49, and the annual low, the 52-week low is 48.29. So it's really pushing on that low, and so I'm a little concerned there. But then tomorrow afternoon, you got Cracker Barrel, CBRL, Charlie Boy, Richard Larry. Their EPS is 78 cents. Expected move is 8.36%. You look at their call volume, which was 7,224 versus 3565 on the put side, which is, a 0.49 put to call ratio, which is positive. But I'm still a little concerned here because, while they resolve that issue over their logo, there could still be, some negativity in this report. So, I'm a little cautious on both GIS and Cracker Barrel, but that's what I have for you in terms of an earnings update, Emily.
Bill will be watching those earnings reports. And along with that, you're also keeping track of some economic reports today. The major economic headline, of course, is the FOMC meeting, but we're going to hear more about that tomorrow with the policy update and, of course, commentary from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. But in the meantime, we have a couple of data points to gather today. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Yeah, we got a number of economic data points today. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, you get retail sales. You also have import-export prices. At 9:15, you get industrial production. And then at 10 a.m., you get the housing market index. I mean, the big one really is the retail sales figures. Expectations are for a 0.3% month-over-month increase in August, which is slightly below the 0.5% gain we saw in July. But that's still pointing to positive retail spending, so the consumer still seems to be good. And so yeah, but that's the key economic report coming out today: retail sales, Emily.
Bill, again, gathering those data points, all using your Newsware. You have an economic alert set up. Of course, you have one for the Fed as well, will be useful tomorrow, and one for your earnings action. And then you set up other types of alerts so you can gather news coming out of different sectors and segments. You look at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stock. I got 18 higher. I got 12 lower. I'm looking at my FANG stock, and I'm seeing gains across the board in the FANG stock. So, that's all positive. And you're looking for some of the news behind the tape, and you've got to start off with Amazon because they announced that their prime big deal days, they're going to be running from October 7th to October 8th. Notice only 2 days, which is smaller than what they did in July. But yeah, another Prime Day deal days is coming in the start of October. Google, this is interesting. Google announced the opening of its new data center in the UK as part of a wider 2-year investment program, which totals about 500 billion pounds in the region. So Google announced opening of new data center in the UK. This is important. Meta is going to be doubling down on their AI-powered augmented reality products. Apparently, they're going to be coming out with some new smart glasses at that annual Connect event, which starts tomorrow, Wednesday. Netflix, that Crawford boxing match brought in 41.4 million viewers, according to Netflix. That's all positive. You're looking at Dow Jones 30 stocks. You're talking Disney. Disney acquired a 2% stake in Webtoon. Webtoon is flying this morning. NVIDIA, one of their chips, that RTX 6000D chip, which was designed for China, has really been seeing lukewarm demand. They're not jumping for it. Remember, China wants companies to buy locally organic made chips. They don't want them buying NVIDIA's chips. In terms of guidance news, we gotta start talking about Charles River, CRL, Charlie Richard Larry. They came out and they backed their full year 2025 EPS view at $9.90 to $10.30. Street estimates $10.18. Okay, not great, but okay. And then there's Steel Dynamics, STLD. They see Q3 coming in $2.60 to $2.64. Yet the street estimate is $2.57. That's a nice uptick. STLD. In terms of shareholders meetings going on today, we got to talk about the trade desk, TTD, Tom David. They're holding a shareholders meeting. It's going to start at 11 a.m. this morning. In terms of buyback news, Chipotle Mexican Grill, CMG, Charlie Michael Grace, they announced an additional 500 million 400 million to the shares repurchasing program. And then there's like catalyst events. And the big catalyst event, the NYT, New York Times, Trump announced a 15 billion libel suit against the New York Times. You can't win a lawsuit against the president, I don't think, and so it'll likely be settled. But Trump just wants to claim victory, so watch for something to occur over the next 6 months here on this one. But that's what I have for you in terms of a morning market update, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Going with NVIDIA and VDA. Here's my reason. President Trump is going to the UK today. He's flying out to the UK. There's a bunch of pomp and circumstance. They're going to be having a state dinner, what have you. But who's joining him? Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. And he's going to be joining him. Now, why is he going with him unless there's going to be a NVIDIA announcement? So I'm expecting a positive news announcement from NVIDIA either tonight, tomorrow. It's hard to place my finger on it. But I do expect some positive action, in the very near future for NVIDIA. You look at yesterday's call volume, 1.2 million calls traded to 600K puts. That's 2-to-1. Then you look at the open interest, which is, rather even, 9.8 million versus 9.6 million. And, you look at all the major brokers, they have $200 price target and higher on the stock, so that they all do like it. But the trick is to kind of like get in at a good price. And I'm thinking 176, maybe up to 176.50. But, somewhere in that range, because I do think we could see a little weakness and I got to prepare for that. But there's something coming. There's a pending news announcement, I feel, from NVIDIA that's going to cause the stock to move higher. So that's my pick of the day, NVDA, Nancy Victor David Apple, on the CEO being with President Trump on his trip to London today, Emily.
Bill, trading sort of best of breed here on this Tuesday and trading the news cycle on that one. It's similar to what you did yesterday. It was sort of a big name play, and we'll see how that turned out in just a moment. So stick with us to get to that recap. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
JP Morgan had that announcement with Plaid, but, Dave, ticker DAVE, confirms no pricing impact from Plaid. Interesting. Russia said to be close to cutting oil output due to the drone attacks. That will push oil higher. Viking Holdings takes a delivery of its newest river ship. The National Highway Transportation Authority, they opened up an investigation. Tesla's Model Y door handles becoming inoperative. Why Charles River came out with that reinstatement of their earnings? Because their CFO resigned. Interesting. Google, 5 billion British pounds investment in UK AI development. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emma.
Okay, Bill, before we get to trading on this Tuesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Tesla. Now, Bill, you were looking at this one, hoping to catch it at a discount, and that there was room to run from there. It did drop very close to your hopeful entry point and has seen a good run. How did your call work out?
Well, it worked out when you look at it because the announcement was that Elon Musk spent $2 billion to buy shares of Tesla, and that really caused the market. It caused the stock to rally, and it opened up at 423.15. So, and that's kind of where it was when I saw it in the pre-market. But I was like, it's going to fall. It's not going to be able to hold these levels sooner or later during the day. You're going to see some weakness. So I came in and I didn't have all my data points because I was having some system issues. But I was like, I'm not going to pay more than 405 for it. So I went with a 405 entry price, and sure enough, in the second half of the day, around 2:30, it fell down to 402.43. But could it hold that low price? Heck no. It bounced right back and it closed out at 410. So if you got it at 405, which was my entry price, you got it at 410, you made money. You look at the stock this morning and it was trading 414 earlier today. It traded as that high as 421.50. And with the 405 entry price, yeah, that was definitely a moneymaker. So, Tesla, winner, winner, winner.
Definitely a moneymaker there, Bill. And even though you didn't have all your systems and data points yesterday, that 30 years of institutional knowledge, enough data points to make that call yesterday. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's NVIDIA pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.